Good evening. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Thursday, January the 14th, 2021, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, located at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 and 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast Channel 16 and the district website. They will be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off in the silent mode. Grab them and turn them off, please. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are in attendance tonight. Would you please stand? Ryan Irving. Mr. Ryan Irving, always dressed dapper, thank you. Leslie Martone. Thank you, Leslie. Stacy Anderson. Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate you. These people devote time and interest into studying the district. We also have, for the first time that I've been on the board, Girl Scouts in attendance tonight. Girls, would y'all stand up? Ainsley Grothus, Kirsten Rosario, Rowan Franks, Jillian Schultz. If I mispronounced anybody's name, I apologize. But we are thrilled to have y'all here tonight. Thank you very much for attending. The invocation for tonight's meeting will be given by Tim Gould, lead pastor of the Houston First Church of God, a congregation partnering with Bain Elementary School for several years now. Tim and his wife Beth live in Copperfield with their 3 children. We appreciate your ongoing commitment to our district. Thank you, Tim, for being here tonight. Before the invocation, I would like to introduce the Cypress Ridge High School AJ ROTC cadets who will be presenting the colors this evening. Cadet Hannah Estrada, Cadet Guinevere Thomas, Cadet Donnie Ho, Cadet Giovanni Martinez. These cadets present the colors to you under the direction of Haider Khan, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force. We will begin with the invocation. Please stand.
Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity to meet together this evening, and I thank you for the influence in which you give each of us in this world. I pray, God, that you would help us to steward it well, and particularly for the board this evening, I pray, God, that you would give them wisdom in all that they discuss. Lord, that you would guide their hearts and that your Holy Spirit would have its way in this place. God, we thank you so much for each and every child and student that is served in this district. And we ask, God, that you would speak into their lives in a mighty way, Father, that they would know beyond the shadow of a doubt how it is that you are directing them and where it is that you would have to use them, God, for your glory. We thank you for your presence in this place. Have your way tonight. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Detail. Halt. Left face. Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Ready, cut. Right face. Forward. Hard. Detail. Halt.
You may be seated. Just because you haven't heard much from me tonight, I get to read the mission and the vision statement for the evening. The district's vision is formed with the acronym LEAD: to learn, empower, achieve, dream. LEAD. Our mission statement: the district will maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders. We'll now proceed with the recognition portions of the agenda. 3A, in honor of Texas School Board Recognition Month, the superintendent will recognize the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Board of Trustees for their dedication, leadership, and continuing service to the children of the district. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Covey, trustees, and certainly I'm going to say a few words, but we also have some other speakers that would like to thank you, along with some musical performance and tribute videos. But before they do that, on behalf of all of our employees, and not just our employees, on behalf of the community, I want to make sure that you know how grateful this community is and that this district is for your service. Many people don't know this, but these people up here on the dais tonight, along with Debbie Blackshear, they give literally hundreds, if not thousands, of hours each year in service to this community. And most people say, well, they're probably making a really good salary for doing that. Well, their salary is zero. The books dedicated in the library, maybe a few little treats up here today, that's their pay. They do not receive any monetary value for serving on this board. And, in a year like the last 11 months in which we've, as a nation and as a world, have lived through, this has been a very, very difficult role for board members. There are no perfect decisions. Sometimes there's not a right, there's not a wrong. It's just the best decision you can make at the time. And we are very, very fortunate in this community to have a group like we have up here at the dais tonight that remain steady and make good decisions and are always looking out for the best interest of not any one group, any one person. They're always looking out for the best interest of the district as a whole. So on behalf of the employees, and it's been a real honor and a blessing for me the last nearly 10 years to get to work with boards in Cy-Fair ISD. This is my home. One of the reasons this is my home is I have 7 grandchildren that live in this district, 3 of them already in school, and I want to be part of this district the rest of my life, even long after I retire. And this board is what is a big part of what makes this community successful. So thank you so much for all that you do, and let's give our board members a big round of applause. Thank you. And trustees, that was your pay for this year, just so you're aware of that. We're going to move on. We've got a couple of speakers here. Very proud from our good friend, Commissioner Jack Cagle. He has sent a representative today to read a proclamation, so I would invite Morgan Yates to come up at the podium there, and I will turn it over to you. Morgan?
Thank you. And as he said, I am here as a representative for Commissioner Jack Cagle, Precinct 4. And I'm here to read the proclamation that is an appreciation for you guys and all that you guys have done for CFISD and are continuing to do, and continuing to help the education for these students, especially during these hard times. So I'm going to go ahead and read them off. The Honorable Harris County Precinct 4 Commissioner Arjak Cagle hereby recognizes Don Ryan, Tom Jackson, Julie Heineman, Gilbert Sarabia, Debbie Blackshear, Dr. John Ogletree, and Bob R. Covey for serving as Board of Trustees, Vice President, that's Mr. Don, Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District, as Precinct 4 Commissioner of Harris County, Texas, and on behalf of the citizens of Harris County, it is my pleasure to recognize and commend you for your investment in the education of our students. I thank you for providing the leadership, support, and wisdom the students, parents, and educators in our community needed to succeed this school year. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Benjamin Franklin. Therefore, I hereby proclaim the month of January 2021 as School Board Recognition Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. You want to just hand it to Mr. Covey right here?
I think it's supposed to
hand it to
Ryan's.
you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't want it. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you, Morgan. Please tell Commissioner Cagle thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Leslie Martone, who is president of the Cy-Fair Houston Chamber of Commerce. And Leslie's one of our graduates. I believe it's Cy Creek, right, Leslie? I knew better than that. She's a Bobcat. She's a Cy-Fair Bobcat.
That. How do I start on that? Wow. Dr. Henry, President Covey, and trustees, this is my 9th year coming and doing this. I'm honored every year to be able to come and do this. And in a year like we've had, it's not going to happen without crying. I've cried with you, I've prayed with you, and I've talked to you about the anguish that you're going through and what you feel with these students and these teachers. All I can say is thank you. And I ask you and I tell you thank you for making the right decision. You made the right decision, and I know it was a hard decision, but I thank you for that from the bottom of our hearts and from the board and from the business members of the chamber. I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside you in the Cy-Fair community, so thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Leslie, very much, and certainly one of the great partnerships of this school district is the Cy-Fair Houston Chamber of Commerce, and Leslie and I kid each other that we trade out being mayor every other week since we're kind of the two big organizations in Northwest Harris County. Okay, now comes some really exciting performances. To show our appreciation for our board members, we have a special virtual fine arts performance for you this evening. Please enjoy the beautiful voices of the Cy-Fair High School Chorale under the direction of Mr. Nicholas Lykos as they perform Jubilate Deo by Peter Angel.
You did good.
Thank you.
That was good.
Servite Domino
Thank you, Cy-Fair High School. Next, our audio-video production students from Cypress Ridge High School have put together a brief thank you video for the trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
감사합니다. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci. Thank you, CFIC School Board, for everything you do for us and for being true servant leaders.
Thank you, Cypress Ridge audio-video production students. I tell you what, one thing that I'm really proud of in CFISD is the growth of our audio and video production quality at each high school. It rivals anything that you'll see on TV, many of the productions that you'll see. So thank you so much for contributing this evening. There's also a thank you from the CFISD Culinary Academy E students under the leadership of their teacher, Randy Richards, and they prepared the delicious treats that each of you have up here in front of you. So let's give the Culinary Academy East students a round of applause for providing this. And then, before we go to the last thank you, I'm going to thank someone who's not a board member, but someone who makes sure the board has everything that they need, makes sure that I'm taken care of all the time, and she might not be a board member, but she is definitely someone who makes this board function very well. So the board secretary and my secretary, Holly Reichert. Holly, stand up so we can thank you. And then finally, certainly our campuses always do such an outstanding job of providing all of these treats, the books that will be dedicated in the library for board members up here, creating the wonderful decorations that you see. The 2021 Board Recognition Month theme is Navigating to Success, so you'll see that on a lot of the posters. And, we really do have the best campus leadership group, I think, in the state. And then they're supported by wonderful teachers and staff throughout all of our campuses. So campuses, thank you for providing this thank you to our Board of Trustees. I really appreciate you doing that. So, Mr. Covey, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. 3B, the superintendent will make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and students in recent weeks. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. All 12 CFISD high schools have received Chromebooks for students as part of the district's LTE, Learning Together Everywhere one-to-one program. Rollouts began before the Thanksgiving holiday and were completed before winter break. More than 75,000 CFISD students have received a Chromebook, which includes 100% of our high school students having their own device now. In addition, 52% of elementary students and 46% of middle school students have received their individually issued Chromebook. CFISD has met all requests of CFISD Connect students who indicated a need for a device in order to be successful while learning remotely. And just so everyone knows, I think roughly we still have another 40,000 Chromebooks that will arrive. So Cy-Fair ISD is going to be a one-to-one district, a Learning Together Everywhere district. So even when we're past this pandemic, this is going to help enhance learning for all of our students wherever they might be. And I would also say that we have provided those that need them hotspots. So students not only will have a Chromebook, they'll have the ability to access the internet to help improve their learning everywhere and at any time. The Bridgeland and Cypress Woods High School marching bands completed their competition season at the University Interscholastic League Class 6A Marching Band State Contest on December 15th at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Cypress Woods placed 10th with a score of 51 points, while Bridgeland placed 15th with a score of 72 points. The two marching bands were among 20 bands from across the state to reach the 6A competition. But just to put a little bit of that in perspective, not everyone knows this. We had the 10th place band and the 15th place band, and there's 260 6A high schools in the state of Texas. So that's quite an accomplishment, and Ms. Hull and I had the honor to go watch them perform, and I can assure you that they made the Cy-Fair community proud. Bridgeland High School capped an impressive football season in which 7 teams from CFISD qualified for the postseason. In just their third varsity season, the Bears advanced to the Division II Region II 6A semifinals before falling to Rockwall Heath. They finished 12-1 and were the undefeated District 16 6A champions. Cy-Fair High School, which claimed its third undefeated District 17 6A title since 2017, and Jersey Village High Schools both finished the 2020 season as Division I Region III Area Round finalists. Cypress Creek, Cypress Park, Cypress Ranch, and Cypress Woods High Schools were all by-district finalists. CFISD has twice qualified 7 teams for the football postseason since splitting into 2 UIL athletic districts in 2018. And something I know this board and others have heard me say, whether it's the band, whether it's football, cheerleaders, drill team, the joy in our young people's eyes when they have the opportunity to do what they love. I could see it every day. I could see the smiles behind the mask through their eyes. And for all of the outstanding efforts that our campus staff have made, all of our operations teams, and all of our support groups throughout CFISD. And parents, thank you for giving us an opportunity to have your students and make those good things happen for them, and your support this year. It's been a different year. It's been a challenging year, but I can tell you, amid all of the difficulty, there's been a lot of joy too. So I appreciate this board up here for letting us make it happen. So thank you, Mr. Covey.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. We'll now proceed with the public comments portion of the agenda. Patrons who have duly registered for policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment on agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. We have one speaker tonight, Miss Ainsley Growthhouse. Ainsley, would you like to come up?
On behalf of Girl Scouts of San Jacinto and in honor of School Board Appreciation Month, we would love to present Mr. Jackson, Miss Hinneman, Mr. Sarabia, Miss Blackshear, Dr. Ogletree, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Covey, and Dr. Henry a token of appreciation for all your time and dedication to CFISD. Our school district would not be the same without your hard work and dedication that you all have provided throughout the year, especially this year. Thank you for making an education possible during this pandemic.
Y'all just bring the Thin Mints over here. Thin Mints. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Here, I'll take Debbie's. I'll make sure she gets it.
Well, ladies, y'all broke a little historical tonight with having Girl Scouts at our meeting. We're thrilled that you were here, and we look forward to you coming back, or other Girl Scout troops coming and joining us. We'll now proceed to the board comments portion of the agenda. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any students, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. Ms. Heineman.
Thank you, President Covey. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate all the lovely posters and the books being donated to the library in honor of the school board. Being able to serve on the school board for Cy-Fair ISD is truly an honor and a privilege, and not something that I and the rest of us take for granted. It is truly, that's the best gift of all, is being able to be a part of the Cy-Fair ISD family, to serve the students and staff and employees of the school district. So thank you for that privilege.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree?
I'm in my fifth term serving this great district, and I will tell you that it's always refreshing, always a blessing to have someone appreciate what you do. And I would do it without any appreciation, but thank all of you, all the schools and all the organizations that show us some love. God bless you.
Mr. Ryan.
I'll echo what Julie and John said, and really it's nice to have a board like we have now that's so cohesive, has no agenda. In fact, the only agenda we have is for our students, really. And so to be recognized is nice. It's very much appreciated, because a lot of times we're recognized, but not in the way that you might think we'd be recognized, especially when we rezone your family. And then my wife and I were in HEB, I don't know, about a week ago, and a teacher stopped me. And I had a mask on and everything, so I thought, how does she know who I am? And just said, hey, I just want to tell you thanks. We've had a great year. I know you guys, went through a lot to make everything happen. And so that was nice. Just a simple thank you means a lot. Me and my wife, she goes, wow, that hardly ever happens, does it? And I said, no, not really, except for this one day of the month during the year. And so that's nice. But I also need to say, I agree with Mark. I'm so glad he said something about Holly, because she is the glue that keeps us together. I mean, when you get a phone call and she's like, hey, you know where you're supposed to be? I'm like, apparently not. And she does a great job. So we are, collectively, we are so grateful for her. And we're really grateful for our administration, because, we just deal with the policies and procedures, but all the success we've had from the beginning of this year to where we are today is because of our administration, and they do a great job just with the day-to-day operations. So thank you all. This means a lot.
Thank you. Mrs. Arabia.
Yes, being my first year here, it's everything's new for me. So, and then of course the year that we've been going through, all I've found is nothing but helpful people around here. There's negativity doesn't exist with the board here or the people that we work with. Everything's positive, and we're gonna get it done. And that's not always the case. And like the other trustees, they all welcome me very warm and always very, very helpful. And I appreciate that. And I'm honored to serve the community as it is. And I'm also honored to be able to partake in Debbie's desserts when she makes them.
Mr. Jackson.
I will borrow some words that Dr. Ogletree often reminds us of. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. We honor the man who said these words this month, but more than that, we honor his ideals, and his words that he spoke so many years ago are still very true today. I did one campus visit from the last board meeting. It was at Gleason. And I would like to say thank you to the teachers for our pre-K and K students. I was amazed. They all had their mask on. To watch the littles go down the hallway, observing all protocols, I never thought that it could be possible. And I know if it happens at Gleason, it happens at all of our elementaries. So a tip of the hat to our elementary teachers who have been able to have our youngest observe the protocols that are so important, particularly at this day and time. I too would like to say thank you. This is overwhelming, what you have done for us, but what you do for the district, from senior management to campus leadership to our staff and our teachers, is truly remarkable. This district is very, very special. I don't know that y'all can necessarily appreciate just how special it is. I would also like to say thank you to a couple of board members who will be putting in 200 to 300 hours extra this year above and beyond that which we do. President Bob over there serves as an officer of one of 42 for the entire state of Texas. He makes numerous trips to Austin each month to fulfill his obligation on behalf of school children throughout the entire state. And then, of course, Ms. Heineman has embarked upon a journey called Leadership TASB. That in and of itself is a commitment of 200 to 300 hours. And it is much appreciated, even though the road is a bit arduous. And then finally, I would like to tip my hat to the Scouts and also to the Girl Scouts. You are a critical piece of the puzzle. And even though recruitment this year has been non-existent for you, your presence tonight for the Girl Scouts, but also the Scouts for other nights, reminds us of what you do that impacts academic attainment going forth. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Blackshear? Who's not here tonight, but she told me to say it's my dynamic leadership that has done wonderful. Everybody said it, and it's just amazing. And when you work with people across the state of Texas, and we realize how fortunate and blessed we are with this district, with this superintendent, with his leadership, with his A-team, with the people that serve on each one of our campuses and work with our students. You just can't say enough good stuff about what goes on in Cy-Fair. Do we have our struggles? Yes. Do we have our challenges? Yes. But do we really address them and try to make them better? Yes. And I'm very proud of this board, as Don said, being as cohesive as we are with the one goal, and that is the students. And that's exactly what we're here for. And that's who we serve, and that's who we want to see be as successful as they possibly can be. So being on this board is an honor, like Ms. Heineman said, and I am thrilled that y'all are here to celebrate with us tonight. And it doesn't matter if we don't get paid, because this is just about as nice as it gets. So thank you very much. And I'm sure now I'll go on to the next one. I'm sorry. John?
I just want to say something. Looking at Monday being Martin Luther King Day, and the step that this board has taken for equity and our goal to have all of our schools no place for hate schools. Martin Luther King said this, and I think this would be appropriate to say in this season in our nation where hate is really prevalent. He said this: returning hate for hate only multiplies hate and leads to a deeper darkness of a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And I hope that we will strive as a community, as a school district, to be a place where love abounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. 6A, the patrons who have duly registered for per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern or interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. I don't believe we have anyone signed up tonight. So now we will move on to our public hearing. 7A, the board will hold a public hearing to discuss the 2019-2020 annual report describing the educational performance of the district and of each campus in the district. Where's your bling, Dr. Macias? Okay, you got it. Dr. Macias. Ashley Claiborne, Dr. Claiborne.
Good evening, President Covey, board members, and Dr. Henry. The Texas Education Code requires each district's board of trustees to publish an annual report that includes the district's accreditation status, and we are accredited, the Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as the TAPER, campus performance objectives, information received from the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and a report of violent or criminal incidents for the previous school year. As you know, the STAR assessments were waived this past school year due to the pandemic. Therefore, the information in the report is limited as compared to what we typically share with you with this report. So Dr. Claiborne will continue with the report.
We will begin tonight with the data taken directly from the Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as TAPER. These reports contain a variety of testing, demographic, personnel, and financial data, and they may be assessed by following the path before you. On March 16, 2020, Governor Abbott waived STAR testing requirements for the 1920 school year due to COVID-19. Since there are no STAR data for the 1920 school year, the STAR results included in the 1920 TAPER are only for the 2018-19 and 2017-18 school years. These data are 2 and 3 years behind and have previously been shared with the board and the public. In regard to new data included in the TAPER, the 4-year graduation rates are displayed for the class of 2019. As you may recall, our data for the class of 2018 saw a small dip to 89.8% for the African American student group. We're thrilled to note that all student groups displayed above are once again in the 90% range. In regard to tracking students after high school, the purple bar displays data from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. For the class of 2018, they report for the students they were able to track that 59% of our graduates enrolled in 4-year, 2-year, or independent colleges and universities in Texas only. The blue bar displays data from the National Student Clearinghouse. In regard to the class of 2018, they report that 71% of our graduates could be found in a public or private institution, including online programs, throughout the entire country. Campus performance objectives are included in the campus improvement plans and may be found by following the path on the screen. Our final set of data are taken from the annual report on violence and violence prevention. During the non-traditional school year of 2019-20, our rate of infractions from the beginning of the school year in September until March 6, 2020, was 0.006 with a student population of 117,120. This statistic includes only data that are correlated to specific Texas Education Agency discipline action reason codes. Therefore, it does not include every infraction detailed in the Cypher ISD Code of Conduct. This concludes the presentation for this evening. At this time, we would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Sarabia, you have any questions? No. Mr. Jackson?
I do, and since the data is a little old, these questions will be the same ones I asked last year, but I do think it's important to point out some things, particularly for the viewing audience. The data shows that this is an amazingly high-performing district. But first, let's take a look at our graduates. Every year I take the schedule that comes out in January, and I identify the percentage of our students who graduate. I adjust it for the non-trackables, and then I look at how they did in the school year. My view, if our kids are college ready, is if they can have a C average or better that freshman year, they're ready for college. What they do with it is up to them and to environmental factors. Now, if you notice, Dr. Claiborne pointed out that there's a 12% add-on to the raw number. So my number shows that roughly 2/3 of our students, when you adjust it for the non-trackables, attended college. You have to take that 12% add-on factor that Dr. Claiborne looked at on top of the 67 that moves it all the way up to 79. Well, there's something special about that number. But first, let me turn to the captain of the ship. Dr. Henry, what percentage, and this is an unfair question, but I ask everybody else unfair questions, so why not you, right?
Yes, sir.
What percentage should we be looking for attainment of our students being able to go to college when they leave our campuses?
Great question, Mr. Jackson. I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer is we usually think somewhere around 2/3 that are going pretty much out of high school. And again, you talked about the untrackables there, but I think the more precise answer is that, as you saw in the report, over 90% of all groups in Cypher ISD, all subgroups, graduate from high school. So our goal is for everyone that graduates from a Cypher school be college ready. So the answer, we usually say somewhere around 70%, but I'd say a more accurate answer is we want everyone to be college ready. And some, as you know, do not choose to go that route. Some go the military route. Some go straight to work, and they have other ideas. But we want our students, and even the 90% graduation rate is a little deceiving because we have kids that may finish the next year or the next year. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you, sir. If we use, and 2/3, and I've done this every year I've been a trustee, so this is my 9th year, we've always hit this 2/3 magic number. We don't always know about the add-on factor of the additional from the clearinghouse, which truly moves the number up. When you back out the non-trackables, it says every year for the last 9 years, we have hit that magic goal of almost 80%, which is simply amazing. It says that collectively, senior management, campus leadership, and the teachers are doing something very special here that really isn't being seen around the state. A second observation I would make is 75% of our students who go to college finish that first year with a C average or better. When you take a look at it broken out by our high schools, it breaks out predictably enough based upon socioeconomics, with one high school that's an outlier. I won't mention the name, but that same high school has been an outlier every year I've done the study. So it's an outlier for being the positive. But a question I have for you, Linda, or you, Dr. Claiborne, 75% of our kids make that C average. Are there reasons other than lack of high school preparation for them not to be as successful as we would like them to be in college?
Mr. Jackson, I think you answered that question when you first began sharing your findings, environmental factors. And so there are just different reasons why students may start school, may start college, and then are not able to finish. Sometimes it is economics, even though they may have a scholarship or a grant. It's life. So there's different situations that might happen. But we also have kids who may not be able to complete their freshman year, but may come back the second or the third year.
Thank you. I serve as a very low-level functionary on the Chancellor's Council for my alma mater. They too have an issue of being able to have students graduate. All who enter the alma mater are capable of graduating, but only about 65% do. And they did a study with a joint venture with UCLA, and they found, it's these environmental factors that are impacting. And that's 1/3 of the students at a flagship school. Thank you. Let me go over some of the questions that I asked you all last year because I think they're very important when we take a look at these. On page 20 of the report, there's a 76% increase in the CTE coursework aligned with certifications for the district. The state saw a 41% increase. So we're basically doing 50% better than the state. I mean, that's a massive increase. Can you comment any, are we doing something different? And granted, these are a year old, but you already told me we're well on track for doing as good as we did, if not better.
Actually, yes. As I was reviewing the information and thinking about this data and visiting with our director for CT, Denise Quebeca, she's not here today because she's tattooing rabbits for selection for selection right now. But we have had a concerted effort in just increasing and doing a better job of aligning our courses to the certifications, and then developing pathways to advanced level CT courses. And then our campuses have done an incredible job, their counselors and their staff, with making sure students are being guided that way. So yes, it's been a concerted effort. We will continue on that path. We're not sure what it's going to look like for this school year because it's just an anomaly, but once we get over this school year, we will continue on that path again.
So the success was purposeful and is sustainable.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. The reason why I focus on CTE is the director of CTE shared with me that students who take at least one CTE course graduate at a much higher rate than those who do not. When you visit with the students who are in the CTE program about what it means, they tell you, well, they're finishing a project, whether it's putting an object that helps astronauts on the space station, or it's going elsewhere. Another one of the significant impacts, page 15, the annual dropout rates for grades 7 to 8 is dramatically lower for the district compared to the region and the state. The percentages are 50% and 25% lower respectively. Clearly an item to celebrate. When Dr. Henry came on board with Cy-Fair, one of his approaches was to focus on the middle. And so the question I have for you, Dr. Macias, can we regard this as a fruit of that endeavor?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have several things in place that Dr. Henry has guided us towards. We're a data-driven district, and so our campuses do an excellent job with their academic achievement specialists and their staff at looking at data, seeing what students need support, and doing that outreach to make sure that they are connecting with with the students. We've had an in-the-middle project at several of our schools to be able to support and improve academic achievement there. And then fairly new, Dr. Henry continues to challenge us all the time with making sure that we continue to focus on this, is we have our program called Bridging to High School. And that is over at the Brodigan Center. And with that program, we've identified 8th graders who are overaged, and we have invited them to our Bridging to High School, where they do 8th grade in the first semester, and then they transition to high school the second semester and begin earning credits. So those are students who are at risk of dropping out, but we are capturing them and making sure that they're being successful. We just had a celebration at Brodigan Monday or Tuesday, Dr. Henry? Which day? Monday or Tuesday, and it's just really awesome to see just the students, that empowerment in the students, that they're able to have that success and now be able to be classified as high school students and earning credits.
Before COVID, I had an opportunity to visit with some of those students, and they were overwhelmingly appreciative of being in the program. Of course, the stories that they told as to why they were there broke your heart, but they were thrilled to be there, and I'm thrilled, Mark and Linda and Martha, for y'all seeing fit to come together with an idea to make this happen for those students, giving them a second chance, even though the environment thought they would not have that second chance. Greatly appreciated. My pride and joy, it shows up on page 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mary J. is not here, but much of her team is, right? Math at all levels. The approaches meets our masters are significantly above the state and the region. The pride and joy for me when I look at it, the mastery level for the EOC for Algebra 1 is 40% higher for the district than compared to the state and the region. And this has a very special anomaly when you take a look at the numbers that defies what typically happens when you increase numbers taking a test. Would you elaborate a little bit on this, Dr. Macias?
This has been a path that we've been on with middle school math, and really it's connected to the number of students, as you've said, Mr. Jackson, that are taking Algebra 1. In our district, it's in the 40%, around 40% of our 8th graders are in Algebra 1. At the state level, it's in the 20%. So when you think about the students in the advanced course Algebra 1, and they do perform better, and so you see the higher levels there.
And normally that doesn't happen. As you increase the number of individuals, percentage of the population taking a test scores go down. But y'all have created a sustainable anomaly for 9 straight years. Truly a remarkable achievement, and I think it needs to be applauded even though we're a year out. So I'll stop at that point. As always, I have more questions. But I wanted to ask these so that the viewing audience can appreciate how very special this district is and what a tremendous job y'all are doing. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Ryan, do you have anything of intellect?
Nope. No, I just want to point out, because I know, Mark, you guys have worked really hard on this, is on our annual report on violence and violence prevention, our enrollment went up, but we had a drastic drop in the number of incidents. That's a huge, huge drop. So kudos to you guys for that, because we know that everyone wants their children in a safe environment. And to see those numbers consistently drop means that that our students are safe and secure in the buildings that we have them in. So obviously there's going to be little things that pop up, but that's great. I mean, it went down roughly 300 incidents, and so thank you to everybody who was involved in that. That's awesome. awesome statistic.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Dr. Ogletree?
Great report, no question.
Thank you. Ms. Heineman?
Thank you so much for the report. We are always so proud to see the accomplishments of our students and our teachers. I did have one question, and that had to do with the 2020 special education determination status. It's at needs assistance, which is the second level, and I just wasn't sure what that meant for us as a district. If you could explain.
Yes. There are two indicators that require 100%, so you can't miss not one thing on either indicator. And both of these have to do with basically meeting timelines. And so we've gone back and looked at them, and I think except for two of them, they were all connected to COVID. So being able to meet the initial referral timeline, or the ARD before the third birthday, they were connected to COVID. And I will tell you that we did work hard to address this. In the summer, you may recall that we didn't have face-to-face summer school, but we implemented face-to-face testing to make sure that we could capture as many of the students as we possibly could. We've got Saturday testing going on. So we're trying to meet the timelines with outside of the school day and in the school day as much as possible. That's what that is.
So the determination status didn't have to do with the services we were providing. It was primarily the timelines.
That's exactly what that is.
That's good to know. Thank you.
That's all? Thank you. Dr. Macias, Dr. Claiborne, as always, y'all just do a phenomenal job, and thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with the reports portion of the agenda. 8A, the administration will provide an oral report on the continued implementation of Safety and Security Action Plan to improve safety and security in all facilities, focusing specifically on the work of MHIT. Presenters are Teresa Hull, Franklin Sampson, and Dr. Tracy Schluter. Thank you. Eric Mendez and MHIT.
President Covey, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry, as our first presenter is approaching the podium, I just wanted to share with you that the report that we're going to provide you tonight is an update on the district's progress on Goal 2, Target Objective 1 of the Board Monitoring System, which specifically addresses the continued implementation of the district's Safety and Security Action Plan. As you know, we continue to implement a number of physical safety features, including clear backpacks, requiring all students to wear an ID, limited access points, again, a number of safety and security measures. But tonight's presentation will focus on what we believe to be one of the most important safety and security measures we have in place, and that is providing the mental health support and interventions for our students in need. As you know, we formed the 2 mental health intervention teams during the fall semester of the 2018-19 school year, with last year being the first full year of implementation. Tonight, 2 members of our mental health intervention team, Ms. Joanne Wallace and Dr. Wes Baker, will provide you with an update on the work of these teams with a specific focus on the support that they have been providing students and staff throughout the pandemic. So now I will turn it over to Ms. Wallace to begin our presentation. And after the presentation, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. On behalf of the Mental Health Intervention Team, I would like to take a moment to extend our warm gratitude and great appreciation to the board for all that you do for the CFISD community. You're very much appreciated. Secondly, Dr. Henry, Chief of Staff, Teresa Hull, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. So, to start off with a brief beginning, our team is comprised of 8 individuals, but it is broken down through departments. So I would like to take the opportunity to introduce our department heads, and that would be Mr. Franklin Sampson, who is the Director of Guidance and Counseling, Dr. Tracy Schluter, Director of Psychological Services, and Chief Mendez, he's not here, but Chief of CFISD PD. So with saying that, the 8 individuals, we have 2 mental health police officers from CFISD PD. We have 2 psychologists from the Department of Psychological Services, and then we have 4 licensed professional counselors in the state of Texas from the Departments of Guidance and Counseling. So I just want to share that these 8 individuals bring 3 different components to the table. Lots of knowledge, experience, and education supports our team. We are lifelong learners. We continue to grow and expand, and we thank you all for the opportunity of being a part of this team. So what I'd like to do is introduce the team. I wanted to start off with our mental health officer, Julio Cadenas, who's in the back of the room here. Our newest member of the team, Officer Darian Simons, unfortunately was not feeling well today, and we wish her speedy recovery, and hopefully we've got her back tomorrow. She's greatly missed. There are 2 officers. Then I'm going to go to our psychologist, Dr. Richard West Baker, and Dr. Michelle Pastoric, who bring great support to our team. Next, I'm going to start off with Adele Minette Cortez, who we all know as Minette. She's an LPC, also a play therapist. Next, we have Mrs. Shelly Ann James Perillion, who is an LPC on our team as well. We have 1 man down but not out, Megan McCarthy, who is an LPC, Megan McCarty, who is an LPC supervisor who has been out keeping us all safe, but is due back any day. We've missed her and looking forward to her return. And then I am Joanne Wallace. I am an LPC supervisor as well, and grateful to be a member of this amazing team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. West Baker.
Thanks. That's fun, you got a screen here. All right. Dr. Henry, President Covey, trustees of the board, thank you all very much for your time this evening, as well as for the service to the district. On that note, I'd like to offer, I guess, just a personal note. I've been in the district from 2009-2010 school year. I've always been impressed with the district's leadership in the area of mental health. The district leadership has always been acutely aware of the needs in the area of mental health and has always been very supportive of our efforts. I think the size and the caliber of the Department of Psychological Services, the size and the caliber of this district's Department of Guidance and Counseling are both a testament to that, and the fact that our team even exists speaks to that as well. So thank you all very much. We were in front of the board about a year and a half ago. I do want to focus tonight on the efforts that we've done over the course of that past year, but I'd like to put it also into the context of our general duties. So I wanted to spend a minute talking about our typical duties. So the majority of our efforts focus on the areas of suicide prevention and threat prevention. So we do a large amount of research, training, and program development in both of those areas. The district has a standardized response model across every campus in the district for both suicide prevention and threat prevention, and those came in part from our efforts. We do a large amount of training. We'll talk about some of those trainings throughout the district in the area of mental health. We also, in the areas of suicide prevention and threat prevention, we provide direct support to campuses, direct support to homes, both in the short term when a crisis occurs, as well as in the long term for students who need additional mental health supports in those particular areas. We also provide potentially long-term case management in anywhere from all the way up to formalized evaluations and recommendations to parents and campuses for those sorts of supports. In the area of general mental health, we do work to provide a number of resources for the district, as well as develop various supplemental programs in areas such as reducing mental health stigma and supporting mental health needs across the district. In the areas of specific crisis, if a crisis does unfortunately occur, members of the MHIT team, we work to support the crisis response team in the district in that direct response to campuses. And we also conduct many of the trainings in crisis prevention, response, and mitigation that take place within the district. So that's the context of our broader mandate. That's what our team has been doing for roughly the last 2.5 years, I suppose. But of course, we know at the end of March last year, COVID hit. We moved into learning at home, and the needs of the community and the needs of the district changed tremendously. And so we tried to respond to that the best way we could. What we have on screen is just a rough timeline of our response relative to the COVID pandemic. In late March, we started sourcing and producing dozens of resources on everything COVID adjacent that we could think of in the areas of parenting, coping, stress, general safety. These were produced and presented, these were distributed through email to district staff as well as district families, and they were also published on the district website, the COVID response website. Around that same time, we started to work with our professional networks in the region. We met with our other mental health experts in the area and some of the representatives from the other ISDs to get a sense of what their anticipated challenges were and to put our heads together and try to come up with some uniform and informed response. In early April, we pretty quickly realized that we were going to need a new skill set to respond to the needs of the district, and so we pursued extensive training in the area of telemental health, suicide prevention from a distance, trauma-informed response services, and how to support a post-COVID reentry into schools. In early April, we distributed an administrative needs assessment. This went out to campus leadership, campus administration, and other support staff as a way to get a sense of what administrators thought the needs of their staff were on campus, where were the challenges that they were experiencing, and how could we be better informed in supporting those challenges. As a result of those responses, we did put together a workshop that took place through April and May, a series of workshops that we called the Stress and Coping Series. This was available through the Cypher Professional Growth System. I believe it's still out there for CEUs. We hosted live Zoom streamed meetings, and these workshops are also still available on the Cypher YouTube page. They were specifically targeting the areas of understanding stress, so understanding how our bodies, how our behaviors and our mental health might be impacted by the acute and the chronic stressors that we were experiencing at the time. Self-care, how to maintain self-care through the pandemic. At this time, all of our teachers, all of our staff were working from home, and so we wanted a workshop on how to maintain a positive work-life balance while working from home, while your kids were at home, while your spouses were at home, and then also how to foster hope during difficult times. In mid-May, the LPCs on our team launched a really awesome resource, the Facebook Live interview series that started around that time, and those are live streamed interviews with local mental health representatives, experts in the field. In Cypher, we actually have a pretty robust mental health network. We have a lot of providers in the area. The struggle is knowing who they are, knowing where they are, and accessing that network. And so this has been a really good way of connecting the Cypher community with the network that we have outside of school out there in the Houston area. Going through the summer, we continued to meet with regional ISDs, regional mental health networks. We knew that we were going to need a pretty solid plan coming through the doors in August and September. And so we met with them and took a look at what their plans were and brainstormed with the other ISDs. We also continued to pursue training in the areas of reopening support, trauma-informed care, and general stress and coping. In August, we hosted another workshop series. This was about a 6-hour workshop that was administered to an audience of district leadership, administration, teachers, staff, as they returned to work. These targeted the areas of self-care, so caring for the caregiver. We got to put our own mask on before we can help put the mask on the children. Understanding trauma from the perspective of our children. We knew that children were coming back and are continuing to come back from very stressful periods. Teachers needed to be sensitive to the behavioral health and mental health impact of that potential trauma. And they also needed very specific classroom-based strategies in order to support our traumatized students when they returned. For the past 2.5 years, we've had specific response procedures for students on our campuses who present with concerns of suicide, either suicidal ideation or potential suicidal behaviors. We realized very quickly that we have students who are still our students and they're still in our classrooms, but they're at home, and we were going to need a new set of procedures to attend to their needs there. And so we developed another set of response procedures directly addressing those needs in our CFISD Connect students. Throughout September, we trained pertinent campus staff, primarily campus counselors, in how to respond to those mental health crises that might be occurring at home during the day. And as part and parcel of those, with those response procedures, when a student is experiencing a potential suicidal crisis at home, so when a student has made an outcry, when a tip has come in through one of our tip lines, when a friend goes to a campus counselor and says, hey, I'm concerned about my friend, very often that results in one of our MHIT response teams going to the home and working with that family to triage and support whatever might be taking place. And those mental health response teams are primarily comprised of one of our LPCs and one of our officers. And then throughout October, we had another number of, I think, really neat interventions and efforts that started up. Motivational Mondays. Motivational Mondays is a weekly, jumpstart to the week that's put out. It's either a positive affirmation, a brief quote, just something to sort of help teachers get their week jump-started. The mental health roundtables. These are open door mental health workshops available to any staff within Cy-Fair. These are hosted by our LPCs. Staff can sign on to these regularly scheduled workshops, and they receive direct instruction and practice in various mental health techniques that they can apply in their own lives. And then the recharging station. The recharging station is a really cool, I'm sorry, I don't have that website. Somebody out there can shout it out. But the recharging station is a really cool effort. It's an online, let's say, pit stop. It's just chock full of videos, guided meditation, breathing exercises, funny videos. It's a palate cleanser that the district staff can go to during the day when they need, just to get a little refresh. Wanted to take just a couple of minutes. These are the efforts from the past year, just a sampling of those efforts. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to pause on this semester and talk about the numbers that reflect the work over the course of this semester. So over the course of fall semester 2020, just looking at that semester, MHIT had over 1,300 contacts, and a contact would be MHIT responding to a campus, MHIT responding to a home, or primarily or triaging a crisis over the phone from a distance when that's an option. That breaks down to roughly 100 contacts per week, and so this chart on screen is reflective of some of the numbers that we're dealing with on a week-by-week basis. So in a typical week, MHIT might be making 22 campus visits, and what a campus visit looks like is somebody on the campus is having, there's a mental health concern with a student, very often there's an individual crisis, and they're needing some additional support on the campus to help resolve that crisis, and so one of our members or one of our team responds to that. In a typical week, we might do 8 home visits. As I mentioned before, those home visits are part of our suicide prevention efforts for our CFISD Connect students, and those are happening daily. 51 consultations over the course of the week. We do have a main support line available to staff when there's a mental health crisis taking place on a campus. They call our main support line, and every time they're going to reach one of us. We are going to work with that campus staff as long as it takes to either triage that issue over the phone or to respond directly to the campus. We meet with staff members on campuses. We'll meet with families. Our officers will escort families to hospitals if that's what it takes, but we're there when we're needed. And maybe, say, 11 resource contacts. And so this has been, this would be, say, for example, a campus has a specific topical issue, a family has a specific topical issue, and they've reached out to us for some additional resources in that area, and we'll find that, and we'll make that available. This middle column, this is reflective of some of the numbers, the numbers that reflect, I guess, how staff members might be directly impacted by some of our efforts last semester. So the Mental Health Minute, I didn't mention the Mental Health Minute earlier. The Mental Health Minute is such a cool resource. Manette Cortez works very hard to put this together. It's bi-weekly. It's produced in English and Spanish, and it is a mental health newsletter that's pushed out to district staff and families. And every one of these newsletters is just chock full of wonderful infographics, videos, handouts targeting specific, usually topical mental health concerns, maybe related to the theme of the month or the theme of the week. Over the course of 11 newsletters from last semester, there were, you can see, over 20,000 views to those newsletters. So we know that people are digging into them. Just anecdotally, we get a lot of positive feedback on those. I say we. I have almost nothing to do with it. It's Ms. Cortez. I'm going to have to give her credit for that. For the Stress and Coping series, which was the workshop that we delivered the spring semester of 2020 to our staff at home, we had 1,400 attendees through those various venues. The Facebook Live interview series, although that started up in last May, just looking at the snapshot from last semester, there were 15 interviews over the course of last semester, numbering almost 7,000 views, so almost 7,000 attendees, I guess, to those interviews. The Motivational Monday, these are the Monday weekly jump starts. These started in October again, and by this point we've had almost or a little over 1,700 views of those. And since October, the LPCs have hosted 8 mental health roundtables. Again, those are the open door mental health strategy workshops that are available to all staff. And just one last bit of information. Last semester, we delivered 38 trainings within the district. The breakdown of those trainings, the majority of those are in the areas of threat assessment, so behavioral threat assessment and suicide prevention. New district staff, staff who need advanced training or who need refresher trainings and those specific procedures that we use throughout the district. That's what those trainings are. Trauma-informed care, so helping our teachers learn how to respond to the needs of our potentially traumatized students. Social media safety, we've only given it once, but it's a really cool and fun training. We hope to give it more often. General mental health, topics like self-care, topics like general stress and coping would fall under this area. And crisis response. The crisis response is a much more involved training. It generally is several days in length, but it's training our mental health responders within our district to be well prepared to prevent, mitigate, and respond to crises that might occur within the district. And just this final number is one that I'm particularly proud of. This goes back to, I guess, probably about a year and a half ago. Within our district, we've been using a standardized behavioral threat assessment response model for the last year and a half, the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines developed by Dr. Cornell. And since we implemented those a year and a half ago, we've been able to train over 900 staff members within the district. And so every campus within the district has several individuals who are trained and prepared to respond with a robust behavioral threat assessment model. So. And that is all I have. I'm going to turn it over to the people who are empowered to answer questions
Oh, that's not easy for you to go sit down though, right? Dr. Henry.
Just very quickly, and Bob, you said this earlier, one of the things that, or many of the things that we have should be proud of in Cypher ISD, and I'm going to tell you, Franklin Sampson and Dr. Tracy Schluter we started this long before COVID, many years ago, and then we really emphasized it 2 or 3 years ago, and they've just taken this, and I've even had the Commissioner of Education, I didn't even prompt him or anything. He said, man, y'all have a great program set up to look after the mental health needs of the students. So I'm just really proud of this group of people, and I'm proud that we have these resources. And Cypher ISD, like I said, we were not setting it up for the past 11 months, but boy, it has really come in handy. So just kudos to everybody that's part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Ms. Heineman, do you have anything?
Thank you so much for the report and update. Oh, I always get off camera. I wiggled too far this way. I am so grateful for the resources and the people and programs that we have put in place, and I appreciate so much your work and your efforts. So please know that you guys are making a difference every day. I'm glad that we focus not just on the crisis response, but also that day-to-day care in hopes of preventing a crisis. And I appreciate your investment in that as well. I have been a frequent flyer. I probably have a direct line to some of these resources. The Facebook Live events were so helpful for sharing resources with parents who weren't sure where to turn. As you said, we have so many great resources in our community, but sometimes you just don't know who to call. And so that was a great way to be introduced to different providers in the community to see if maybe there was one that you could connect with. And I thought that was just a great resource for parents. The Mental Health Minute newsletter is fantastic, as well as the Twitter, just great inspirational, just good to know that someone is there and listening and cares about our students and our staff and our families. I wanted to also say that in addition to the amazing resources that you guys are providing yourselves, know that I've seen your efforts duplicated and multiplied exponentially at the campus, because teachers and counselors are really that first line, and so they are so well equipped now to help identify when a student may be in crisis. And I see teachers reaching out to kiddos and just connecting with them and providing those safe spaces. And I think that there's been some changes on campuses in terms of letting kids take that time. Do you need to go out and catch your breath? Do you need to go to, where's your safe space? If it's the band hall, here's a pass, go to the band hall, go to the restroom, go to the counselor. And I see more of that openness and embracing, giving students those spaces that they need to catch their breath or to reach out to someone that they trust. I think a couple of challenges we have is if there are policies in place that maybe need to be changed, I'd ask that you let us know what we can do from a policy standpoint to better facilitate mental health services and care for our students and our staff. Thinking specifically of, now there's telehealth, telecounseling. If we need to make policy changes so that students can access that during the school day on campus, I think we need to look at that. I think another challenge is how do we connect students to students and that peer-to-peer support. And I know so many of the campuses are doing mental health alliances, and I think that's so fantastic, because a lot of times students may talk to each other before they'll reach out to an adult. So I think empowering students to support each other and letting them know, addressing that stigma when they hear it from their peers that it's okay to not be okay. So those are just some of my thoughts I wanted to share, and thank you so much again for all you do. I'm very grateful that our district invests so much in the mental health of our students and our staff.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Dr. Ogletree?
Yes, this is one area I agree with Julie that we can truly be proud of, and thank you for the report. Thank you for all that you all are doing. It's just expanding. I did want to ask a question when it comes to the suicide prevention. The student that is in a crisis situation, how do those referrals normally come? And do you work with the family, not just the student? And then what is the follow-up when you engage in that work with this student?
Most times excuse me, Dr. Ogletree, most times it ends up in the counseling office. Those come in different ways. It may come from a teacher, it may come from another administrator, or a course fellow student. When that transpires, usually the counselor works with the student. We have the suicide risk screener in place. From that, we ask a series of questions as it relates to that screener. And from there, we decide if we need to, of course, reach out to the mental health intervention team. We involve parents in that. So if we have a student who expresses some type of suicidal ideation, then we, of course, notify the parent before further actions are taken. But to answer your question, the mental health intervention team usually gets involved when it's one of those items that are pretty high, if you would, what we classify as a Protocol 3.
Thank you, Reverend Franklin. You all are doing an outstanding job. I do want to ask you about self-care, and I'm so glad to see this as a part of what you all are doing. It's very comprehensive. And is there a way to assess that, these things that you all are providing in this area, like self-care and other things?
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree, for that question, and thank you, Dr. Henry and board. Thank you again. I know Franklin and I are so appreciative of this opportunity to work with these amazingly trained individuals and just collaborate together to put together a program like this. But we appreciate it. It wouldn't happen with the support without the support of all of you. So yes, we have the ability to do some needs assessments. I think, we mentioned that as part of what we have done, but I think that that's something that we can look to in terms of the self-care, making sure that we're doing needs assessments to understand better the needs of our staff, the needs of our leadership, and the needs of our community. And when we did those trainings at the beginning of school, we had that time that we focused with the leadership to talk about self-care as a leader, and then how you can help support and impart self-care for your team. But then we also did that training, and we're able to, thanks to Dr. Macias allowing us that time during that training week, that we were able to have a full day that we were able to spend with our teachers and paraprofessionals and talk to them about self-care and the importance of self-care and taking care of yourself so that you can be there for your students in your classroom. So I think that's always important, that we continue to do those needs assessments and take a good measure of where our staff and our leadership are, so that we can continue to develop things that they want and need and will utilize. And I think because of COVID and the ability to video things and put things out there, that people can access them when they're able to access them, that's really been something we've talked about a lot as being a silver lining for our training opportunities, is the ability and technology. And thank you to technology and technological services and our communications department for helping us with a lot of those things. But we can video things and put them out there so that our staff can access them and re-access them. And I think that's important too.
Good. Amazing. Thank you.
Mr. Ryan?
This is an excellent report, and I look back on when the pandemic first started and the wave of uncertainty that we had in this boardroom amongst employees, amongst students. Have y'all seen the numbers, the access to the services increase or decrease as we become more accustomed to our conditions within the pandemic?
I think, Mr. Ryan, you're referring to the wellness program that we have for our employees.
Yes.
The numbers have increased for sure, and we attribute that to multiple reasons. We are doing a lot better with marketing of the program. Our principals have been very influential in sharing that information, as well as our communications department, and we've placed those flyers in key places as we've done in previous years. But we've moved to more of an electronic type of marketing approach with that program. So we're thankful that our employees are taking advantage of that.
Y'all have done a great job, number one. I'm really proud of the district making this a focus. Corporate America has done this for quite a few years. My wife's with HP. We have access to many of the things that now our employees have access to. And so it is when you look at the entire employee benefit package, this is a huge asset, especially when we're wanting to recruit and retain employees. So I commend y'all for that. Great job.
Mr. Jackson.
Well, I have to say thank you to my colleagues, because y'all touched all the important buttons, including the questions, Don, so this time you asked the questions I wanted to ask. But you used fewer words. I don't know how you did that.
I'll share that with you. It's a secret.
Yes. To our mental health team, I just want to say thank you. Being on the ground during this time period You have repaid your worth numerous times. Obviously, your presence here has benefited our teachers, our campus leadership, but we're here all about the students. And y'all have provided a calming benefit for them. Bob noticed this when I did campus visits. It is so refreshing. And these are the fruits of your work. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Sarabia?
Yes, excellent report. Excellent, very informative. Great questions by the fellow trustees. You talked about having teams and stuff, and maybe in the older campuses. Have y'all looked into maybe having teams throughout the students to assist in various campuses, having a team here, a team there? I'm not sure if y'all have gotten that far yet, because as Julie said, a lot of the peer pressure goes hand in hand, and sometimes those would be the most knowledgeable and informative that that can lay the clues to just stopping one person is a success. Have y'all looked into that maybe?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Sarabia. Yeah, I should not have worn these earrings tonight. Thank you for that question. I agree with you, and I wanted to say to Ms. Heinemann's comment, we have had some exceptional, we saw the video presentation, and Dr. Henry talked about the amazing work that some of our high school students do with the video technology. Right. And we've had some amazing presentations that those students have done with regard to suicidal ideation and thoughts and speaking out, and you're not alone, and we're all here to help and connect, and I agree with you that students listen to one another and they respect one another, and so that is something that I think is worth us looking into, for the middle school students. I know we've done some other activities like the LEAD Academy with the elementary school students, and that's been a partnership with the LPCs and our mental health officers in terms of working with our elementary students and talking to them about different things, and working with them about police officers and safety and respect and those kinds of things. And I don't know if there's anything else that you all would add to that. The Student Mental Health Alliance is at the high school level, and that's what Ms. Heinemann mentioned, and that's the other thing too that I was mentioning in terms of the videos and some of the things. But those students have done amazing things together. Goat yoga has been one of the things that they've done together to encourage one another to have activities that relax themselves. That was at Cy Creek High School, and that was an amazing thing. Trying to think if there's anything else. Announcements that they're making at the campus level with the Mental Health Student Alliance as well. So those have been great, and I think we have that alliance at most all of the high schools now. 9 of them. So that's been really a wonderful thing to have seen with our high school students. So
right, and it's a passion that you guys have. It's and it's much needed and very appreciated. And maybe y'all can give some insight to some of the prospective students who may want to, look at your field, and maybe
absolutely,
start a mentoring program and that way though. So.
Well, and kudos to the people at the high school that are supporting the teachers and things that are supporting those mental health alliances too, because they're taking their time and realize the importance of that with our students. So really a positive shout out to them as well. Much appreciated.
Right, and thank you for the whole team that you guys are doing. Like I said, just one person that you can get. It's one person that's of value. And thank you, Dr. Henry, for backing everything that they need and stuff. So great report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarabia.
Thank y'all very much. Dr. Tracy, and I won't try to pronounce your name. Again, I butchered it the first time. But I do have one question, and that is the 908 staff trained in threat procedures, and that's pretty much spread across all of our facilities. Is that what you did? Yeah.
That is correct. Yes, we have been able to, and that's been a lot thanks to the support of Ms. Colin Sims over here, who's helped us to establish a really positive working relationship with Dr. Cornell at the University of Virginia and his research and evidence-based work that we've been able to have him come in. He trained Mr. Sampson and myself and the whole mental health intervention team and several of our other psychologists in his method. And so then we've been able to go out, since we're trainer of trainers now, and we've been able to go out and train across all of our campuses. And we're continually providing that training because, as you're aware, we're continually growing new leaders in this district. And so we have new people in assistant principal roles, counselor roles, principal roles all the time. So we're constantly doing those trainings. But we've had the good fortune of training over 900 people, which is exceptional in that model, so that they're skilled and having those ongoing conversations so that they're continuing to develop those skills so that they're ready and prepared whenever they might need to utilize those skills. And then they have these amazing people a phone call away to support them, which is fantastic.
Thank y'all very much. We're very proud of what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you. The board will now proceed to the action items portion of the agenda. 9A, the board will consider approving the minutes of December 10th, 2020 board work session. 9B, the board will consider approving the minutes of December 14th, 2020 regular board meeting. If any board member wishes to remove one or both items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consensus items as recommended and or amended.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Since there's no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. 10, action items non-consent. 10A, the board will consider approving the first readings, additions, revisions, and or deletions to district policies. 10A1FNF, local students' rights and responsibilities, interrogation and searches, revise. Are there any questions? Other than my vocabulary? May I have a motion to approve the consent item as recommended or amended?
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
I'll go ahead and make that motion, and I won't have to say the word searches.
Okay. And do I have a second? Was that Mr. Sarabia? Thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. We got a number of these, y'all, so just pitch in and help. 10B, the board will consider approving on second readings, additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 10B1 FB local equal education opportunity revise. 10B2 FNG local students' rights and responsibilities, student and parent complaints and grievances a revise. Are there any questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the non-consent items as recommended or amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. All in favor, raise your right hand. 10C, it was unanimous. 10C, the board will consider approving the calendar committee's recommendation for 2021-2022 instructional calendar. We will have a brief presentation by the infamous Dr. Linda Macias.
Board, tonight I am representing the Instructional Calendar Committee to present to you their recommendation for the 2021-2022 instructional calendar. I will share with you that I was so proud of this committee and the work they did under the conditions that we're in with the pandemic. They did a great job with weighing the needs of our students and the needs of our teachers to be able to provide the instruction to address the significant instructional gaps created by this pandemic. I believe some of our committee members may be here this evening. Typically they come, but with social distancing, I know that was not the case. I know some are viewing through the live streaming. Is anybody here within the calendar committee? Will you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you. Oh yeah, we got several people here. But I will tell you that the committee is built to be representative of our CFISD community. There are parents that served on the committee, community business partners, teachers. We had more teachers than we've had in the past. We have paraprofessionals. We have campus administrators, and then district administrators that also are on the committee and provide a wealth of information for the group. Dr. Claiborne serves as my co-chair with me on this committee. The committee's charge is simple. Recommend to the school board, the work is difficult, the charge is simple. Recommend to the school board an instructional calendar based on what is instructionally best for our students. That is the charge that they have. I want to review just briefly for you what's required in law regarding a calendar. So we must have a minimum of 75,600 minutes of instruction for students. And that's important because we're talking about students. Students is minutes, teachers is days. In those minutes are included lunch, recess, intermissions, really anything from the start from the start of the first bell to the end of the school day is included in those minutes. The law only allows up to 2,100 minutes of professional development to count towards the 75,600 minutes. That's 5 days for us, since our day is 450 minutes. Inclement weather days have to be noted on the calendar. In a minute, when I share the calendar, you may recall that we always set aside 900 minutes in the calendar in case we have inclement weather, so that we don't have to make that time up. But in addition to that, the state wants it on the calendar, so we put 2 other days on the calendar, or we put 2 days on the calendar. School for us cannot begin before the 4th Monday in August, and we cannot end school any earlier than May 15th by law. And then again, for teachers, the contract is 187 days. So teachers is days, student is minutes. So when I just talked about the inclement weather days that we always build into our calendar, 900 additional minutes, so that we can have 2 days that we don't have to make up. When I say that, I'm talking about instructional minutes. Teachers not working additional days. They only, their days is 187 days. The calendar committee reviews instructional parameters that are set for them, and that's based on what our community really asks for in calendars. You may recall that we did have a calendar survey that went out, and it's based on what we followed in Cypher, as well as what is a best calendar to meet the needs of students. So instructionally best for our students, again, follow state law. We look at balancing the semesters as much as we can, but the fall semester always appears to be shorter than the spring semester. And I say appears because in the spring we have all these testing days. So there really is more of a balance that really appears in the calendar. Our minutes, as I said, is 450 minutes. We've maintained that so we can continue to have the closing the gap time at the for each campus for every day, to make sure that all kids are getting some instructional time. We look at our testing calendar to make sure that we are not having a student holiday on days when there's testing that may be happening. And we look at the holidays and the breaks that our community asks for and is accustomed to also having. Over the last few calendars, we have also maintained Election Day as a holiday, and then we added that Monday because we saw a dip in the attendance. We recall that. I talked about the minutes, the 2 inclement weather days, the minutes that we make sure that we have in the calendar. We look at surrounding school district calendars, and we look at the Region 4 does a survey also, and we're a part of the Region 4 calendar committee, so we can see what surrounding school districts are also looking at, because we share many times, teachers. So a teacher may live in Klein, but but work inside fair or vice versa. So we look at those calendars and we look at spring break so we can kind of have a commonality. And I think Dr. Remember the Region 4 superintendents have been very adamant about being consistent with that spring break time because, again, we share families. At this time, remote learning days are not an option for the 2021-22 school year. You all know we have them in the calendar this right now. I shared with the calendar committee that although remote learning days are not an option, I do strongly believe that our teachers need some additional time for planning and preparation. This next year and probably the next year are going to be some of the most difficult years in the classroom for our teachers. They will be seeing in their classrooms more students than they probably have ever seen with significant gaps. And they need the time to plan and prepare to make sure that they are able to meet those needs and close those gaps and help our students be successful. So I will share with you what the committee is recommending. So can you put the calendar up, please? And you have a copy of the calendar on the dais. Let me pull mine up because it's hard to see that one. So this calendar has 167 days of actual instructional days. It has 4 professional development days in it for a total of 76,950 minutes that we can claim for our calendar. Remember that our the magic number that we have to meet is 75,600 minutes. So based on this calendar, we actually have enough minutes built into it for not 2 but 3 days that we would not have to make up instructionally in case we had an rise in the situation we're in right now, or weather related or something like that. So let me walk you through this. So if you look at the calendar, I'm going to start with a start date. That's that purple. And you can see that the 4th Monday in August is August 23rd. If you go to the 4 professional development days, those are in yellow after the 23rd. Look at those. So November 1st and 2nd, January 3rd, and February 14th. So those are our 4 professional development days that are within the first day of school and the last day of school. If you look at the blue, those are the holidays that the committee has recommending. So you have September 6th, Labor Day. You have the week of Thanksgiving. That's important to our community as well. So November 22nd through the 26th. The 2 weeks for the winter break, that is also important for our community. And so it starts December 20th through the 31st. If you go down to March, there's the spring break. It aligns with mostly the surrounding school districts, but also with Lone Star College, which is important to us because of our high school students and their dual credit courses. If you go to April, you see April 15th there. That is Good Friday. And then if you go to May, you see that purple. That is the last day. That would be the last day of school, the 26th. So even though you see the blue there for May, which is Memorial Day, we actually would end school on the 26th. And the last workday for teachers would be the 27th. If you go up to the top in August, you'll see that there are 2 weeks of professional development for teachers. That's been our standard. This year it was different because we moved the start date up. And so we could not meet the 187 days without adding some more professional development time for our teachers. So we're back to the 2. 1 week is district professional development. The other week is at the campus level. Now what's different here are these fuchsia color markers here. These are markers that the committee has designated and recommended as teacher work days. Okay, they're not, again, if you recall right now, the remote learning days, the kids are learning remotely. The teachers are preparing for the kids to learn remotely on those days, and the teachers have their work day. These days are student holidays. So teachers are not preparing for students to do work on these days. They are there are student holidays, teacher work days. And there are 5 that the committee denoted. September 24th, October 22nd. And we really try to spread them out as best that we could. But if you look at January, notice there's nothing in November, December, because we have some holiday time there that already cuts the instructional days short. In January, you can see that it's January 14th. When we could, we try to back it up to a student holiday. That way, if parents wanted to do a 4-day weekend, parents were able to do that. In February, it's the 11th, and again, it backs up to a student holiday. In March, I'm sorry, there's not in March. In April, it's April 18th. And did I miss one? No, I think I'm on. So those are the teacher work days / student holidays. But I do want to add that if we have a situation where we have to have school closure that goes beyond the days that we have set aside as additional time, we will tap into those days. Well, we can tap into those days, I should say. We can tap into those days if needed. But barring from more than 3 inclement weather days that we would have, those would be teacher work days for our teachers. And so that is the recommendation that the calendar committee is bringing to you, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Macias. Mr. Sarabia. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
I want to emphasize, on election day, we do not have students on campus. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you for doing that. That was an important item for my colleague, Ms. Blackshear, as well as others, but I think even more so with this year, it was very important that you take that step, and I appreciate that. I would also say kudos for the teacher work days. On an anecdotal basis, this past week while I was out taking one of my walks, I was stopped by a teacher who wanted to express her appreciation to the entire board for y'all coming to us for our approving the teacher days during this time period. And I would note that other school districts have now copied that, which y'all pioneered. And I like the fact that you're carrying over that concept to the new year, because I think next year we will still have the mask, and this little bug's not going away anytime soon. I like the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just make one correction, because y'all probably think that I'm colorblind. On my original, there was fuchsia, but it's green. It's green on the one that you all have and what was on the screen.
I thought I'd learned a new color. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have, my original was fuchsia, and I was looking at
Okay.
that, but we changed it to green.
Okay.
A green star that's noted up there. Nobody said
Mr. Ryan, do you have anything? Okay. Dr. Ogletree? Ms. Heineman?
Yes, real quick. Thank you to the calendar committee. I know that's a huge project. It is not easy to try to reconcile all these different requests. And when I was filling out my survey as a parent, when I was clicking, yes, I want a whole week for Thanksgiving. Yes, I want these. I mean, we want it all, and we would still like to be out before Memorial Day. And it's amazing that happened. I'm incredibly impressed by that. And as Mr. Jackson said, including the teacher days where they can be on campus without students, so they can do planning and work. I think that's fantastic. I'm glad we are continuing that. I do want to just confirm the minutes. The school day is 450 minutes. Is that correct?
The school day continues to be 450 minutes. That will also allow for us to continue doing the closing the gap time. that our campuses have to continue working on instructional caps during the day.
Okay, thank you. Great calendar. I'm kudos. Thank you for all your hard work. It's really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Macias, and I just echo what everybody said. I think it's awesome that you are seeing the need for the teachers to have some planning, so thank you. May I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended, please?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the calendar committee's recommendation for the 2021-2022 instructional calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
Is that Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Barely.
All in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, thank you. 10D, the board will consider approving the early childhood literacy and mathematics proficiency plans and the college career and military readiness plans. Dr. Macias and Dr. Claiborne.
Thank you again. Board of Trustees and Dr. Henry, House Bill 3, passed by the 86th Texas Legislature in 2019, requires school boards to adopt detailed plans developed by their district teams that achieve goals in 2 key areas: early childhood literacy and math, and college career and military readiness. The legislative requirement is for individual campus goals, not district, but individual campus goals. With the significant instructional impact on student learning as a result of the pandemic, our goal and focus with our campuses this year is to identify and work on the gaps, to work at closing those achievement gaps. And we've used as our marker the end of the 19 school year, the 18-19 school year. That's when we had that last full year. We use that as our marker, as that's what we want to at least close the gaps and get back to that time and then move forward. So as Dr. Claiborne continues with the report, you're going to hear her talk about that, how we work with our campuses to set those markers and how we're moving forward. Dr. Claiborne?
Texas Education Code 11.185, Early Childhood Literacy and Mathematics Proficiency Plans, requires that the plans must be set for each elementary in the district, use 3rd grade STAR data, and Cy-Fair has selected to use the MEETS grade level standard or higher because the board has challenged us to increase the percent of students reaching the MEETS standard, and this is the level where we want our students performing. Targets should be set by student group. Any group with 25 or more students will have a target. The goals should be set for 5 years. The district should submit an annual report to the board on the district's progress toward the goals. The plan should be posted on the campus and district websites, and targeted professional development will be provided for classroom teachers in kindergarten or 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grades who are assigned to campuses that have not met the plan goals. Texas Education Code 11.186, related to college, career, and military readiness, requires that the plans must be set for each high school campus, evaluate college, career, or military readiness indicators used in the state and federal accountability systems. Targets, again, should be set by student group. The goals should be set for 5 years. The district should also submit an annual report to the board, and the plan should be posted on the campus and district websites. To develop the plans, we collaborated with the Texas Education Agency, Region 4, surrounding districts, our internal curriculum team, and elementary and high school principals. Our focus when setting the targets was the concept of returning to whole. Campuses are working on achieving the same or better STAR performance as they had in 2018-19 when we were unofficially an A district. Now let's take a look at the early childhood reading data tables. These tables set METS grade level or higher targets for 3rd grade students taking STAR reading. Due to the fact that we're focusing on these higher performance levels, the targets are not yet in the 80s or 90s. As previously noted, the 2021 target tables are set to match the campus level performance from the 18-19 school year. This is returning to whole. The 2 following years will be working toward 2 points of growth, followed by 3 points of growth in 2024 and 2025. The math targets are structured in the same way. These tables set meets grade level or higher targets for 3rd grade students taking STAR Math. Once again, by focusing on these higher performance levels, the targets are not yet in the 80s or 90s. The 2021 targets are set to match the campus level performance from the 18-19 school year, again returning to whole. The 2 following years will be working toward 2 points of growth, followed by 3 points of growth in 2024 and 2025. In regard to college, career, and military readiness, let me begin by drawing your attention to the portion of the table outlined in yellow. These columns are annual graduates along with the reporting year. The first row of the table, outlined in red, you'll see that the data for the annual graduates from the 2021 school year will be reported during the 2021-22 school year. The targets for the class of 2021 are set to match the campus level performance from the class of 2018-19, returning to whole. The 4 following years, we will be working toward 2 points of growth. This concludes the presentation for tonight, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
I won't go around. I'll just ask you. Raise your hand. Let me know if you have some questions. Mr. Jackson?
This question is a little bit out of the box and not part of your presentation. But for military readiness, there is a test that the applicant must take. That's basically, I don't want to describe it as an academic test, but it's partly academic, it's partly testing. And I passed on to Linda that at one of our national conventions, I was approached by a member of the Pentagon wanting to know if we had an interest in pursuing a joint venture with the Pentagon, and I gave him Linda's information. I don't know if they ever contacted you. But as part of the measurement, do we have any way of determining how our students perform on that test? Is there a cost to that test?
If you're referring to that, is it ASPEC?
Of course, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the ASPEC test, we do not have access to the information. In fact, the state has had a difficult time being able to have access to that information. It was a requirement that they put in place, and they had to kind of back off on it, Mr. Jackson, because it's confidential information. I think they also called it high level because students' names are on there that are connected to who's in the military. Mm-hmm.
So more than likely, the military data are going to be coming off next year as a requirement for these because the state has not been able to get the enlisted student information like Dr. Macias said.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I was going to bring that up when we talked about the state of the district, but would you expand a little bit on that? You know, I think everybody on the board is up to date on it, but perhaps not everybody in the viewing audience knows why that's coming off.
So in the college and career military readiness indicator for our state accountability system and our federal accountability system, one of the indicators was military intent to enlist. So the state, when the system was first set up, did not give us a way to specifically determine that. They kind of left it open to districts. So we have been pulling that information directly off of our senior surveys. Every year we give a senior survey in collaboration with the counseling department. So it was self-reported data. Well, what happened is the state started to see across many districts that some people were over-reporting that information. We were not over-reporting because we were taking it directly from student responses. So the state said, you know what, we're going to cut off military readiness as an indicator in our accountability system until we're able to receive directly from the federal government information on students who have indeed enlisted.
which they're not able to at this time.
At this time, they're not receiving that.
And that's a good summary. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing so.
Are you through, Mr. Jackson? Okay. Dr. O? Nothing? Ms. Heineman?
Thank you for the report. I'm glad to see these goals. That was one of the good things to come out of HB3, I think. One of the many good things to come out of HB3 is to have these goals on early literacy and math, early math. I'm curious as to a couple things. One, why would we choose 2% or 3%? Is that because that's something that's a challenging but achievable goal on an annual basis? Is that why?
Yes.
Okay. And then my second question is, when we talk about closing the gaps between student groups, different demographics, was there thought put into maybe focusing on certain groups, like maybe, like a higher percentage for some of like the groups that are further behind, rather than putting the same percentage across the board? Does that make sense? Okay.
We didn't do that here, but we do it in our performance objectives for the camp. So the campuses actually in their CIPs or performance objectives, they actually look at different target groups and they work through that. So we didn't do it specifically for this. This is, like I said, brand new. And this is also something, Ms. Heineman, that is a live document. So it's not set in stone for the entire 5 years. We will come back and review and keep reviewing.
Okay, I think that might be good. I mean, if we're looking at, we want to close the gap because there's larger gaps for economically disadvantaged students or larger gaps for Latino and African American students, those should maybe have more of a focus than another 2% for a group that's already at 96. Doesn't have quite as much of a sense of urgency as somebody who's at a lower percentage. So that might be something to look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess, Dr. Macias, my comment, and you and I have talked about this a number of times, but they have changed so many tests over the many years that I've been on the board that it's kind of hard to judge whether we are closing the gap sometimes or whether, because I know with the STAR test each year it became more difficult. And you and I discussed maybe there was a possibility of the students that were on the higher end and the ones that were below them, maybe they were both moving up, but the gap had not closed. And I've always found that to be probably a possibility, although I'd love to see everybody on the same level, and that's what we strive for. But I guess I'm going to go back and ask, do you feel like since we didn't do the STAR last year, it didn't count? We did it, but it really didn't count. And this year, it's most probably not going to count. But we do our own benchmarks, and we don't call them benchmarks anymore. We call them DPMs.
BPMs. District Performance Objectives.
Okay.
And so we do our monitoring, performance monitoring. So we have DPMs, and so we look at that. For this specific information, though, there's a requirement as to what data we use.
Right. But when you look at our BPMs, do you see that we're closing the gap? What do you feel?
We do. Well, this is an unusual year, so I'm gonna go beyond that. We do see that we're making some growth. It is incremental growth. You know, as Dr. Henry talks about all the time, incremental growth. Do we need to move a little faster, or do we have more we need to close? Absolutely. And our campuses do a great job at monitoring that. The data is something that they are constantly looking at and looking to see how they can move. You know, they can move the bar even further. So yes, I do think that we're making some growth, but it is slow growth.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Heineman?
I think any growth during this time is positive, and the growth may not be measured in an academic test given once a year, but if we are welcoming our students back and they're re-entering the school environment and we're keeping them safe, I mean, I think that's still positive. I know we have to focus on STAR and for accountability purposes, but there's, I'm leery of talking about students falling behind. Like falling behind who? Falling behind what? They are all surviving a pandemic. So when we look at gaps, I mean, we need to cut our teachers and our students some slack, and we'll get them caught up. It just may take some time.
And my answer for Mr. Colby was not for this year, but for what's happened in the past. But I will share with you that next month, in February, we will be bringing you a report that is going to look at the gaps that this pandemic has created. For the fall semester, we didn't do the DPMs and we didn't do the benchmarks. We actually started, but as you know, our teachers were dealing with so much that we said, no, you just need to work on on teaching kids and closing the gaps. They knew what the scope and sequence was for the fall. They know what it is for the spring. And so we said, you teach, you work on the gaps. But now this month, we are doing a diagnostic. So it's not a benchmark, it's a diagnostic to see where we are. And we have some data from the end of year 18, 19, and we even have some data from last year, the beginning of the year, that we can compare reading levels, for example, at elementary to see how deep that gap is, and then be able to address some of those areas. And we're doing the same thing for the spring. We've backed off on the DPMs and we've got some checkpoints in there if they'd like to use them. But we backed off on the DPMs, and we will also have a diagnostic look at the end of the semester to see how do we do with the scope and sequence, with the standards that should have been taught in the fall semester. And so we'll have a report for you in next month. It's being done right now. Next month, to kind of have an idea of how significant those gaps are.
Thank you, Dr. Macias and Dr. Claiborne. May I have a motion to approve the non-consensus item as recommended or amended?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve as submitted the campus and district performance objectives for the 2020-2021 campus and district improvement plans.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Right.
That's unanimous. 10E. The board consider approving the campus and district performance objectives of the 2020-2021 campus and district improvement plans. Only for questions tonight. Are there any questions? That was quite a bit of reading, wasn't it, board? Yes, it was. May I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended?
We just did, sir.
No,
This is a different.
we just did the early childhood.
This is 10E, is it?
10E.
Isn't it? I move that the Board of Trustees approve as submitted the campus and district performance objectives for the 2020 to 2021 campus and district improvement plans.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Sarabia. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous.
Mr. President?
Yo.
I hate to do this to you.
What?
I read the wrong motion. May I read the proper motion that you asked for, sir?
Well, you'd think I'd be paying attention, wouldn't you?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve as submitted the early childhood literacy and mathematics proficiency plans and the college career and military readiness plans.
Okay, we've got that reread.
I'll still second it.
Thank you. Is everybody willing to vote again?
Yeah,
Unanimous.
we'll vote again.
Okay, a revote. Count the Chads. 10F, the board consider approving the HEB and Kroger pharmacy affiliation agreements. Are there any questions? I'm looking at the board.
I just have a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Ryan. Oh, excuse me.
Linda, who was responsible for this?
It depends what.
No, they deserve credit. That's what I want to know.
It's cool, isn't it?
This is so cool.
Take credit.
It's
Let us say you.
it's another opportunity for our students to go in a career path, and the district isn't spending a dime for it. So whoever, that's their bailiwick, kudos.
Denise
I want them to go-
Quebec and her team are always looking for opportunities for our students. And so they're always out there, peddling to find opportunities. And you're right, that's exactly what it's providing. It's providing more opportunities for them to get those experiences.
This is really cool. I know Bob was a pharmacist in high school, but it was a different program.
There's no respect. That's all I can say. May I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the ATB and Kroger Pharmacy affiliation agreements.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. 10G, the board will consider approving the licensing agreement between Bridgeland Development, LP, and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for the use of Bridgeland High School logos in newsletters, websites, and on the water tower to be constructed and conveyed at the Harris County MUD number 418. We have any questions for Roy Sprague? Nope. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the licensing agreement between Bridgeland Development LP and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for the use of the Bridgeland High School logos in newsletters, websites, and on a water tower to be constructed and conveyed to Harris County MUD number 418.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. 10H, the board consider approving the granting of a sanitary sewer easement to the Emerald Forest Utility District located along the west property line of the Food Production Center and Falcon Transportation Center, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. Are there any questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. President, I want to show that I can read the right motion. I move the board approve the granting of a sanitary sewer easement to the Emerald Forest Utility District located along the west property line of the Food Production Center and Falcon Transportation Center.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I paid attention that time. Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. 10I, the board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to recommended contractors and authorize superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contract as follows. 10.I.1 2019 Hancock Elementary School renovation. Are there any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Mr. Jackson?
Roy, would you or Matt briefly review what this contract's about?
Yes, sir. The majority of the scope at the Hancock renovation is the implementation of the safety and security measures approved in the 2019 bond. Those measures include the segmentation or security for open concept classrooms, where we take create 4 to 8 pod classrooms with security doors, lock sets, intruder lock sets. We'll also be installing the security fencing around the playground and portables. We'll be adding additional impact-resistant glass, additional lockdown buttons, providing additional security at the front receptionist area, and classroom phones.
Will we have any protective construction fencing that's temporary or not?
There will be a 5 classroom addition on this, so we'll have construction fencing around that addition, which is standard.
And for the security fencing around the playground area, what is that going to look like?
The security fencing that we're installing is a 6-foot black ornamental fence. It's very attractive.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Matt, before you go sit down, just where are we as far as completing the safety and security in all of our schools? Just off the cuff. I didn't give you the chance.
That's okay, off the cuff. Well, I'll tell you what we've done and how we prioritized. We've moved all the elementary schools, as many elementary schools as we could, to the first 3 phases. This summer we'll complete 16 of the elementaries and 2 middle schools, which will all have the safety and security. We'll also start 2 additional elementary schools, so we'll have 18 schools under construction this summer. We are in design on phase 3, about to start design on phase 3, which includes the safety and security components. This is a 7-phase bond, so a 7-year bond, so it'll take us a while to get everything done. We did move the security fencing from phases 3 through 7 into a package that we got approved. I think we got it approved at the May board meeting when we approved the bond. So we have already completed about 14 schools, and we're about to start another 25 elementaries. And then when we finish these 16 schools this summer, the majority of our elementary schools will have the security fencing, and we'll continue to implement the security fencing. Probably in about a year, we'll have all the security fencing up.
Well, the ones I see are awesome, so thank you. Okay.
Mr. Covey,
Yes.
just as clarification though, we will be doing building segmentation all the way through 2025, 2026?
All the way through 2025. The majority of the elementaries are in the first three. There are a few in phases 5, 6, and 7, but the majority in the older schools we put into the front. So a lot of the older schools where we're going to increase our classroom sizes by adding these additions. So we're making quite a bit of progress.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
May I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended?
Mr. President, I move that the board award this construction contract to the recommended contractor and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contract.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. 10J, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 10J1, CFISD Isilon Air Gap quote. 10J2, CFISD VLA VMware Enterprise License Agreement, ELA quote. Are there any questions? None? Hearing none? All in favor? I may have a motion. Trying to move along.
Mr. President, I move that the board will award bids and contracts and are authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
I'll second my mentor.
Thank you. I wouldn't admit to that if I were you, Gilbert. I'd try to keep that secret. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. 10K, the district will consider a Level 4 appeal, pinata, of a Level 3 decision. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Sections 551.074 and 551.0821. The board will move into a closed session on this item after the superintendent's briefing of the portion of the agenda. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. Covey. We will honor our school counselors the week of February 1st for National School Counseling Week. National School Counseling Week highlights the tremendous impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve school success and plan for a career. We certainly appreciate the unique contributions our counselors make, and in this most unprecedented year, we have certainly learned what a great value they are. The 27th Annual Cypher ISD Livestock Show and Sale will be held on February 1st through the 6th at the CFISD Exhibit Center at 11206 Telge Road. While on-site admission will be limited due to COVID, we will be live streaming the judging and the sale so you can support CFISD FFA students from home. The online freezer sale and silent auction will start Wednesday the 3rd, providing a jump start to the live auction at the Exhibit Center beginning at 1 p.m. February 6th. The buyer's luncheon will precede the auction at Arnold Middle School at 11 a.m. The 6-day schedule is available on our website showing the times and designated animals for the livestock judging. We invite everyone to support our students. They have been working diligently for months in preparation for the show and sale. We are proud of these dedicated students who last year raised over $600,000 due to generous corporate and individual participation in this sale. January is designated as National Mentoring Month. So, Gilbert, you can honor Don in January. Different kind of mentoring, I'm just kidding. Mentoring can make such a difference in the lives of our students struggling with academics, personal issues, and staying in school. Certainly, we know research shows that a positive adult role model is the greatest indicator of success of a child. So we appreciate all of our mentors, and if you would like to be part of that, please go on our website and become a mentor for a student. Thank you very much, Mr. Covey.
Thank you, Dr. Hendry. May I have a motion to move into closed session?
I move that we adjourn to closed session.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilbert.
Dr. Gilbert.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, the board will now move to a closed session under Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Act for the purposes stated in the posting of this meeting. Sit down, I'm not through talking. I'm just kidding. Y'all can go. If the board determines that any final action, final vote, or decision on any matter considered is in a closed session is required, such final vote, action, and decision shall be taken upon reconvening of this meeting in open session or at a subsequent meeting of the board in open session after proper notice has been posted. Thank you all for coming.